I'm delighted to be here. I think we are lucky to be part of this great event. I have never seen something like this before, where where the whole community of producers of statistics come together. So we are looking forward to what you are going to tell in the coming hours about the work you're doing. I think I would just echo what Kirsten said in the beginning about the purpose of it all, the purpose of this coordination. I would just echo that it should be our dream that if two friends meet in a pub and have a discussion about road accidents or something, they should immediately grab their phones and go to the place where the statistics are and find out what is the right figures, because otherwise you can. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but this is where we want to go. We want to go to a situation where everybody accepts that there are certain facts and they are trustworthy and they are the best figures you can get. Whether they come from one organization or the other, that shouldn't matter. So, but I'm going to finish our presentation here by saying a little bit about what's going on in Europe, in the European Union system. And in the present regulation about statistics in Europe, there is an Article 5 which says that the National Statistical Authority has the responsibility for coordinating all activities at national level and shall act as contact point for the Commission on Statistical Matters. So that means the National Statistical Institute, or in these slides it's named the NSI, has a special role and is supposed to do something in order to coordinate what's going on in the country. And in Denmark and in other European countries, we have established a coordination committee for European statistics, where we, in each country, gather all the institutions who are engaged in making what we call official statistics. Even though it's not well defined what is official statistics, we still have a very good feeling about what is it. And of course it includes the areas which Kirsten mentioned before about health and about environment and financial statistics, fisheries, etc., even though we are not in the statistics office responsible for those statistics. So we have this committee where there are 16 institutions making statistics, and the chair is Statistics Denmark, which is in accordance with the regulation or the law, the European law on statistics. And this committee meets twice a year. I think maybe it's meeting today or something like that. So we are missing this meeting, unfortunately. This committee tries to exchange knowledge about in relation to European statistics only. So it's not all national statistics, but it's European statistics. I have to mention that actually Europe is involved in almost all statistics in a country. We have the figure we used to mention is 80% of the statistics are in some way related to European statistics. So we are supposed to, in this committee, to coordinate efficiently. But what we actually do is we exchange knowledge and experience, and so that we should know a little bit about, they should know a little bit about what we are doing, and we should know about what they're doing. We try to enhance cooperation, and we discuss some problems. We have to admit that this coordination is not very efficient. The committee has existed for a few years, I think 4 years perhaps, and but it's not been very successful, and this is because the engagement is not always, as Kirsten said, there must be some engagement from the top level of the institutions involved, and in this level, in this committee, there's no real commitments from the partners. So we are not doing what we should. At the moment, and for the past 4 years, there have been great discussions in Europe about how should we have the future of the future European statistics. And the European statistics law is in a revision process and has been so for some time. A lot of discussion goes on, and there are 4 issues where the law will be enhanced. It will be stronger than we have known before. One of them is the professional independence, which I'm going to say a little bit about because it's related somehow to the coordination issue. The next one is administrative data, use of administrative data, which is of course very important. I'm not going to say very much about it. This is why I've grayed it out. But the idea is that the European statistical system will make more use of administrative sources in future, the same way as we've been doing in Denmark for the past 40 years. So the European Union wants all of the countries to make use of the same techniques and make as much as possible of the statistics by recombining administrative data which are there for administrative purposes. That's all I'm going to say about this because it's not in focus of our discussion today. Then there's the coordinating role of the NSI. This is the big discussion in Europe right now. And finally, there is something called Commitments on Confidence in Statistics, which is really about that the European Union wants countries to make a statement signed by the president or something like that, saying that we will live up to the spirit of good statistics. We will live up to the code of practice which Kirsten mentioned earlier. So I will say a few words about professional independence, and this is an extract from the coming law. I think this will be passed. There's a general agreement that there must be more emphasis on independence in the coming law, and the European Commission wants to make sure that we don't have situations in future where, for instance, the national statistician, the head of the national statistical system, is removed by the government because they don't like his statistics. And there has been some issues like that, and I can say that at present in Greece there's a terrible situation where the chief statistician is being threatened by the government and by politicians who want to get rid of him because he has revealed the bad situation of the Greek economy. So he's in court. He is in a legal lawsuit where he has to defend himself against accusations for treason. This is true. It's absolutely serious, and he faces a long prison sentence. He's confident that he will survive and he will not be sentenced, but it's a very dangerous situation. So the European Commission wants to make sure that this cannot happen. There must be the statistics must be developed and disseminated in an independent manner. The selection of techniques, definitions, methodologies, and sources must be decided by the independent statistical organization, and the timing must also be decided because it's not very trustworthy if, for instance, the government can say these statistics are a little bit inconvenient before the election, so could you please postpone them till after the election. So this should be avoided, and then the performance of these tasks must be free from any pressures from political or interest groups or from union or national authorities. So this is quite a strong, let's say, strengthening of the present regime. And then there should be transparent rules for the appointment and dismissal of heads of national statistical officers. And this should be based on professional criteria only. So it's not enough to be a good friend of the Prime Minister. Maybe it helps.
Prime Minister's wife.
They shall have the sole responsibility for the basic things involved in producing statistics. And then they shall also have, this is the controversial part, they shall also have, now we come to the coordination, the National Statistical Institutes. That means CBS in Israel, or in our case it would be Statistics Denmark. They shall have the responsibility for coordinating all activities at national level. These are very strong coordination rules. And this is why we have a great discussion going on in Europe. For the development, production and dissemination of European statistics. This would give a great power of instruction to the National Statistical Institute. And the institute should act as the sole contact point. At the moment, it's not the sole contact point because other people, other organizations producing statistics are also dealing with Eurostat, which is the European Statistical Office, and they are sending their information to the European Statistical Office. And they don't want this to happen anymore. They want to give responsibility to the National Statistical Institute, and they must coordinate programming and reporting in other ministries. They must also have a complete centralization of all statistical production, because there are traditions and there are the importance of having some of the statistics close to the place where the most intensive users are. I think this is also the reason why you have organized as you have. But then you could have a set of common standards. I think this is a very fruitful way to go, to agree somehow in the whole national system that there should be certain statistical concepts which would be common and would have to be adhered to. For instance, you could say that whoever makes some statistics involving the concept of a household should always use the same concept, should always use the same definition. If you talk about income definitions, you should always, let's say, gross income, you should always apply the same definitions, whoever you are. So this would be one point. And another point would be to have standards for output data. How should they be organized so that they could be made available and useful across the system, and also for users outside the production system. Then there should be, I think this is a very important point, there should be standards for metadata. There could be standards for metadata saying that everybody, all producers should describe and document their data in a certain way, according to certain standards. And this would be very useful for all of us in the statistics production, but also for people trying to use our data. Then they would be able to find their way somehow to the good data. We know from many talks with users that they find it quite difficult, even within one system, within one statistical office, to find the right data. And if you take the whole statistical system, it's even more complicated. So we must help them all we can. Then we could have common dissemination. As Kirsten pointed out, we have been lucky enough to have this solution together with the national bank, the central bank, and so that people don't have to care who makes the statistics. They can just, when they stand in the pub, they can just look in the stat bank and find the data, whether it's from one organization or the other. There could be a common metadata portal. I think this is something which could be organized without too much trouble. It's feasible. if you have standards for metadata, you can put it together in a common place. It's less ambitious than common dissemination, but it's still very, very useful. And then we could have, we could imagine that there would be some kind of certification, so that only if you comply with standards and quality requirements, which would be similar to what is known in the UN principles and the EU principles. If you comply with these, you can have the label of official statistics. So this is just a toolbox. Maybe we can discuss it later if some of these means can be useful in Israel. And I think this concludes our common presentation. Thank you very much.